Thank you. It's a privilege to be here. I do have to confess that everyone that was up here before me is probably an A student and I'm a C student. So you've been warned. I cannot sing, I cannot dance, so I'm trying to make the bar very low to try to exceed expectations. It's like I told Aaron, I wish I had gone first. But we're going to look at travel demand, and I work for Tourism Economics. We're an Oxford economics company, and you may have a question. At least this is the question I would have. It's a very important question that I'd like to answer for you. I'm just assuming. Maybe you're wondering, why should I listen to the 6'6" black dude? That's what I'd be asking. Who's this guy? So first I'll tell you about our company. Our parent company, at least, is one of the biggest firms in the research space, and distinguished firms. We have 850 staff globally, over 400 of those are economists, and we've been doing it for 40 plus years. But more important than that, we've won a number of awards, and most of those awards have to do with accuracy. So when we do analysis, we try to be apolitical. We try to look at the data and tell you what we're seeing. A lot of times there's pushback, many times we're right. Now, tourism economics builds on the accuracy of Oxford economics for travel. This is an example. At the height of the pandemic, when there was no vaccine, we didn't know if we'd ever sit this close in a room again, to be honest with you. We were asked, how full will hotels be? And the dark blue, you see what our economists said. The light blue is what actually happened. And I call your attention to 2022 and 2023, where they were pretty much spot on. Again, nothing in our world at that time would have told you that it'd be like that, and yet they were right. That's a big reason why big brands trust us and have us do analysis for them. Brands like Airbnb, Booking Holdings, TripAdvisor, and Live Nation. Now, Live Nation, we did a study for a highly recognizable name, Beyonce, measuring the impact of her tour on communities. How did she impact jobs, taxes, and visitor spending? So we're a fan of her, and this gentleman is as well. He took a picture with her cut out, so clearly she impacted him. All right, so fair warning, you're gonna see some memes. I think economic presentations without memes get boring after about 3 slides of charts and data, so I'm gonna pepper in memes that hopefully relate to what you see. With memes, the presentation walks in like that. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to look at some data from a little after the pandemic to kind of talk about how we got here from a data perspective. Then we'll quickly jump into 2024, look at some data to really tee up how 2025 is shaped up, and then we'll talk about now and beyond. So let's take a trip down memory lane, and you'll have to kind of think with me about the time after the pandemic. It was a little interesting, we'll say, and people felt uneasy, at least in the US, despite phenomenal job numbers. They felt about as bad as they did during the 2008-2009 financial crisis, the Great Recession. The question is why? Why did they not feel good about their economy, despite it being pretty strong? Inflation. So these are normal economic conditions, and I have a question for all you A students in the room. What preceded, you see that big mountain there at the end of the chart? That's inflation. What happened to cause that big jump in inflation? Somebody, just yell it out. It's okay, we're family. Anybody? Something that the government did in response. What's that? Stimulus. There we go. Stimmies, as we would say. You guys shared culture with me, I'm gonna share culture with you. In the black community, we call them stimmies, okay? And we like them. Stimulus checks, and that caused inflation. So when I got my stimulus check, naturally, I went to PetSmart and I wanted to know, do you have any tigers? You got bears? What do you have? What can I buy? I'm so rich with all this money. This was bad though. So for my fellow C students, if there are any in here, at that time, you had to spend $400 a month to buy the exact same goods and services. Or if you made $100,000 and you got a raise to $111,000, you still could buy $100,000 worth of pre-inflation stuff. My family, my mom's side of the family is from Alabama. They are still spending their stimulus check to this day. Alabama is very poor. So what happened in 2024? Well, among other things, now, do you guys watch the Super Bowl? Okay, cool. So if you didn't know what was going on, there was a rap beef, and I'll explain to you later what that was all about. It's quite interesting. We discovered women's basketball, and then some other things happened. And I like to use this to say that this presentation is apolitical, but there will be some slides that, depending on where you fall, could trigger you. So I'm not trying to trigger you, I'm just trying to tell you about data and the truth. All right, so travel growth actually flatlined in 2024, and you'll notice from left to right, this is a look at growth, and from left to right, the numbers are getting smaller. You remember, coming out of the pandemic, we weren't traveling, there's pent-up demand, everybody's traveling, and then all of a sudden it starts to kind of calm down. Hoteliers are calling and saying, what's going on? Make it keep growing, and we're saying, no, it's getting normal, it's normalizing. Hotel demand was flat to down for most of the year, actually. This is a deeper dive into that lodging demand. So it was up 2.9%, but it was propped up by cruising and short-term rental nights. Hoteliers in the room will remember, again, flat to down, and I apologize to my hoteliers. You probably feel like Will when Jada told him the news. Does everyone know that? You guys know this is a sad moment for husbands everywhere. Like, please, my wife, don't ever do this to me on TV. It's probably why he did that at the award show. Anyway, demand decreases, though, were bifurcated, meaning they were divided. So in our economy, the rich got richer, the poor got poorer. The inflation disproportionately impacted a certain group, and that's reflected in lodging stay. So you can see luxury is still growing, frankly, where the other side of our lodging economy contracted. Now, this is a look at the net worth. This is bifurcation again. Net worth increased significantly on the upper end, not so much on the lower end. And if you're in the middle, I'm sorry, very, very little increase for you. Now, the economy. The new normal in 2025 is that the economy changes every 30 minutes. I have been on the road almost every week of this year, giving this presentation, and I remember I was in North Carolina, and 30 minutes before getting on stage, it was April 2nd, April 2nd, I had to read a PDF, synthesize it, and understand what Liberation Day meant for this group, because it completely changed everything. Here is a look at all the changes. These are all the dates. This is the tariff announcement calendar. Okay, we got tariffs, then we're gonna pause them. Now we struck a deal, psych, no deal. It's really challenging even with a team of economists on staff. We're all like, do you know what this means? And it's like, I haven't calculated it yet. The good news is things are not terrible, just terribly uncertain. Okay, that's basically the note of everything I'm about to share. It's not as bad as it may look at times, it's just really uncertain. That said, job growth has left the chat. So if you look at the end of that slide, that's job growth, monthly change with a 3-month moving average, and last 3 months averaged just 35,000 jobs. That's not normal. If you look at the previous months there, that's not good. However, unemployment stands at 4.2%. That's actually a historically low rate. So why is that? If we don't have job growth, why is unemployment so low? It would be 4.9%, except workers are leaving. And here's a look at some of those that left. These are foreign-born shares of the labor market. Basically, non-US resident workers in the US leaving. We lost 1.2 million, and I know what you're thinking. They did not get deported. They left of their own volition for whatever reason. They left. So that keeps the unemployment rate low. And so jobs are becoming more valuable. Again, thinking back to the pandemic, you remember what happened. All layoffs and furloughs. And then what happened was, as we opened back up, people were job hopping to get raises. So the red line and the yellow line, that's the quit rate. So people, how much they quit, you see it's increasing, they're quitting. The blue line, that's wage growth. So with inflation, employers have to raise wages, everybody's quitting, they're getting raises, it's a good time, we're high-fiving. I have to tell you, if you're planning to do that now, don't, because that's ended. You're not getting a raise. This is not a good time to job hop. You'd be like that little guy, oh no, I'm not quitting my job. Still though, labor supply demand balance is still okay. So thank you, Salt Bay Trump. Got to give them a little bit of love. Interest rates will be higher for longer. So if you were looking to invest in the US and buy property with a low interest rate, I would not do that. Again, you guys know who this is. Yeah, and so you understand the implications here. They're not getting lower. All right, consumers are worried. I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. Consumers are worried. This is a look at the highest third and the lowest third by income bracket, and they're both worried. They're both not happy. And spending is on hold. The stagnation is rare without a recession. So there's no recession right now, but they're not spending. They're at the end of the chart. The last time it was like this was during recessions, during the pandemic, and the Great Recession of 2008. So that's unusual. Why? Well, tariffs. This is another sort of calendar, but in bar graph view. So you can see everything that happened pre-election, February, March, April, May, June, July, and August 25th. Now, you are here, right there. So that yellow bar, the bottom is best case scenario of the trade weighted tariff rates. The top is worst case scenario. That's when basically the tariffs were the highest they could be on Liberation Day. If those were to come back somehow, then it would likely put us into a recession, and it would also be the highest it's been since the 1930s. In other words, our country was saying to every country, you get a tariff, you get a tariff, you get a tariff. You're our friend, doesn't matter, you get a tariff. You guys know this too. If you're younger, she was giving out cars to everyone in the audience. It was a wonderful time. So these are the observable effects of tariffs so far, and there are some negatives. Obviously, higher prices for the US, a weaker dollar, manufacturing stress, high interest rates, reduced capital expenditure. The positive? Government revenue. Now, you may be saying that's a lot of red and one green. Well, there's a lot of green too. Tariff revenues are raising, and that's $30 billion in July compared to an average of around $8 billion last year. Over the course of the next decade, that's $3 trillion to the US fund. And actually, it does offset the deficits largely from the big, beautiful bill, which initially we weren't thinking it would. So tariffs are raising revenues, but they're also raising, oh yeah, there we go. They're also raising inflation. Core inflation rose to 3.1%. We expect it to be close to 4% by the end of the year. Dollar depreciation is going to fuel inflation, so your buying power is going to be less. The good news about dollar weakness, at least for the US, is that it's a little more affordable, so easier to get into and out of from other countries. And this is a look at the Senate bill, to try to make sense of this noisy slide. In green is good, red is bad, and that line in the middle of those two bars is even, and the black line, that's the average of the good and bad. And so when the black line's above water, it's really, really good. When it's below, it's basically saying net, it's a bad situation for our economy. What this says is that over the next 4 years, we're going to be doing really well economically. The US will be doing well, generally speaking. That's due to tax cuts, investment incentives, various expansions, and some of the negative policy things from the administration will be a slow burn. It'll take a while for it to get and hit our economy. Ultimately, economic growth is going to slow this year, and unemployment should probably rise to 4.4%, but we'll sort of navigate out of this nicely. Let's look at some different travel segments. We'll look at leisure travel, we'll look at cruise, we'll look at international, and then we'll dig into the lodging outlook and also Aruba. So this is kind of, with everything I just showed economically for the US, this is what happened. Again, household balance sheets are really strong. This is net worth, and this is from Host Hotel, their earnings call in July. High-end resort properties continue to show resilience, no resistance to rate. It's really telling when they say that. Older US households, 55 plus, now have 114 trillion to spend. Again, that's something that's noteworthy and telling. You're welcome to share this presentation, so you guys feel free to take pictures, but you can also have it. And that matters because higher income households account for over 60% of lodging spend or hotel spend. So that's who you want to sort of target as you shift to a higher value customer. There's an uptick in travel prioritization among US travelers, so it's the highest it's been since we've been tracking this during the pandemic. Their budget is higher than ever, nearly $6,000 US committed to spend for travel, and the prioritization of it in terms of how many trips, 3.7 trips per year on average, and over 90% say that they're gonna take at least one trip. Case in point, me and my family, I think we've been on like 6 this year. My wife is here, and that'll be number 7. Internationally, inbound to the US is not a good picture. We have upset some folks. Overseas markets continue to decline. A disparate performance when you look at different countries that traditionally are good to us. And this didn't help with Canada. When this happened, I'm a sports guy, I played basketball, and I'm looking like, yeah, get him, USA, USA. And then I thought, oh, I'm in travel. This is not going to help us. This is bad. Ultimately, we had forecasted that inbound international would recover in 2025. That has now been pushed to 2029. Some of the implications of that for you are that those travelers, those US travelers, are also feeling like they may not be welcome internationally. The good thing is, the Caribbean, even to me, doesn't feel, I always have to think, like I have to bring my passport. So it doesn't feel the same as say, going to Eurozone or Canada. So we think that both domestic travel in the US and sort of your area is gonna do pretty well. You're gonna absorb a lot of that demand. The same thing happened during the pandemic. Instead of going to Italy, people stayed home. So the US lodging outlook. Now this is specific to the United States. It's pretty flat. This is RevPAR year-over-year change. It is bifurcated, meaning the upper scale experiences and properties are gonna do the best. Lower scale is gonna contract or continue to contract. And you look at that here, again, you'll have access to this forecast, but again, very, very bifurcated. If you look at the very bottom, RevPAR by class, very red when you go below upper upscale and luxury, whereas those are experiencing positive growth. Now, just remember, things are not terrible, just uncertain. Let's look at cruise. This is an interesting thing. I actually spoke with our cruise expert, Christian Savelli. He was at CLIA for a long time, and this is fascinating. He said, Zeek, basically, the ships are getting bigger, and that's what you see here, even on the smaller class. So from left to right, you have under 1,000 capacity. Whoops, sorry. Under 1,000, 1,000 to 2,500, 2,500 to 4,500, and so on. They're getting bigger in each class. But the bigger the ship, the less places they visit. So if you look from left to right, those smaller ships visit a lot of places, probably premium and luxury. The big ships visit on average 125 places. So you want to think about that as you have your strategy. Uh-oh, it's going on its own, I feel like. Okay, there we go. Deployment is up 13% from 2023 to 25. The Caribbean is leading the pack across all regions. When you look at the contemporary segment, you guys have, well, collectively, the whole Caribbean has 40% of global market share. Deployment for premium segment is also leading the world, so nearly 33, 34%. However, luxury, right now, Caribbean is not necessarily leading. And I asked Christian, I said, why is that? And he said, well, the perception for those travelers is they want a premium experience, they want something that not everyone does, and perhaps, he's pontificating, but perhaps they view the Caribbean as everyone goes there, and so we're not sure we want to. I do think Aruba stands out with how where you stand, and there's some opportunity there, especially having come here. It's incredible. The Caribbean captures a larger market share from newer vessels and also leads across all age ranges, so that's great data to keep in mind. And 2026 is actually shaping up to be another strong year for the Caribbean in terms of cruise. And this is an interesting chart. This is a sort of a growth alignment index. It's basically how likely are you to align with the fleet of the future and continue to grow as they order more ships. So the largest growth in terms of the new ships that are going to be coming online are mega ships and small medium ships. So the two that I've sort of highlighted. And this is a look in graphical form. So the Caribbean is well positioned for that growth. I will point out that while Aruba is doing quite well today, and we foresee in the near future, you do want to realize that competition is fierce, and make sure that you have a plan for how do you want to recruit those ships. So to your point, how are you going to get those luxury ships here? Do you want any of those mega ships here? Few insights which you already know. You guys, tourism receipts are trending up in 2025. Cruise guest arrivals are trending up. GDP aligns with those tourism receipts, and that's all a good thing, but as I've heard, you want to do it responsibly. I want to show you a quick study that we did on the catalytic impacts of destination marketing, meaning when you get someone in, what does that do for the community, and what is the message you probably should have for your residents? And before I do, I just want to define some economic terms which can be convoluted. So what does it mean by direct, indirect, and induced impacts? I'm a C student, so I'm gonna really, really dumb it down, okay? Direct is the money that goes from the visitor to the local driver, the hotel, the restaurants, the tour operator. That transaction is them, right? But I'm not gonna pay a light bill here, right? So indirect is when the hotel pays the light bill, when they pay their mortgage, when they pay for insurance. Induced is when the workers all do the same thing. They take the money that came from me and they go pay. And so that's how that money flows throughout your economy. It's very, very important to sort of tell that story for total impact. Now, we analyzed 10 different destinations across the world, and here's what we found. On average, for every $1 million of visitor spending, there's over $500,000 in non-tourism impacts. In other words, when that money comes in, it's shared pretty well throughout the rest of the community. That also includes $191,000 in tax revenue for every $1 million. Again, this is an average of all different types of destinations, and $120,000 in state and local taxes. And the more tourism jobs grow, other jobs grow. In other words, the more you have to hire people into our industry, the more you have to hire people into other industries to support the demand that comes in through tourism. And there are some positive responses from residents. Most say tourism does support the preservation of local culture and protects the community's authenticity. Obviously, you have to be intentional, as you guys have mentioned. They feel they have more recreational activities, and quality of life often is improved because of increased tourism. Now, that varies obviously across destination, but that's on average. Okay, again, I like to simplify. This to me is like Monopoly. Have you all played Monopoly? Yes? We know this analogy. Okay, cool. So in Monopoly, for those that haven't played, every board has a set amount of money in circulation. That's the board. That's all you get. And you guys go around the board paying rent and fees to other players, and you're trying to bankrupt each other. You're trying to basically have a monopoly. I want to take your money through you coming to my business a lot. But the amount of money in the board stays the same. So the question is, how do you increase the money of the board? You invite nearby players from other boards to come and go around your properties, right? That's what you do. You say, hey, come to Aruba. Zeek, bring Texas money, drop that money here and leave. And then come back and keep doing that again responsibly. Be thoughtful. And as they spend, your community has more money in circulation. And that's what Aruba Tourism Authority does every single day. More than that, obviously, but that is the business that we're in. And I guess I would encourage you, you have an amazing destination. So we landed yesterday around 1. I engaged from the person that helped us escort through the airport, to the first driver, to the person that checked us in. They all told us so many things that we got to do, and I was like, we need more days because we're leaving Saturday. So I booked 7 days in December already for my 5 kids. I booked a flight for me, my wife, and our 5 kids, and we're coming back. So still haven't gotten lodging, so you tell me where I need to stay. Love all the options. Anyway, you have an amazing experience, amazing culture, amazing people to show off that culture. Be proud of that. Continue to support the Aruba Tourism Authority and do that responsibly. Thank you for having me.